It is the 41st millennia. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor of Mankind has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods and master of a million worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He was the carrion lord of the vast imperium of man for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. Yet in his deathless state, the Emperor continues his eternal vigilance. Mighty battle fleets cross the demon-infested miasma of the warp, the only route between distant stars, their way lit by the Astronomicon, the psychic manifestation of the Emperor's will. Vast armies give battle in his name on uncounted worlds. Greatest among his soldiers are the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, bioengineered super warriors. Their comrades in arms are Legion, the Imperial Guard, and countless planetary defense forces, the ever-vigilant Inquisition, and the Techpriests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, to name only a few. But for all their multitudes, they are barely enough to hold off the ever-present threat to humanity from aliens, heretics, mutants, and far, far worse. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim dark future, there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods.
I just have to say hell yeah after that every single time. Hell fucking yes.
Welcome to a new branch of our campaign play, and we're bringing out a game that came out during such chaotic and turbulent times, the pandemic. This is Wrath and Glory. That one of the early editions of this came out in 2020, although this is a game that's kind of in that same line of games that have come out through the blessing of Games Workshop. Follows that same kind of arc as Only War or Dark Heresy and those other countless games. So for people who aren't familiar, what we're talking about is the Warhammer 40K universe, or 40,000 if you want to call it by its right and proper name. And we are playing as people within one sector of the Imperium, and they are all going to be from the Imperium of Man. If the players survive this initial adventure, then perhaps they will be called on to other strange duties and things to explore within known and unknown space. So, tonight...
Yeah, I can't wait for our dumbasses to wind up in Imperium Nihilus. I think that'll be great.
Well, I mean, you're already in a pretty tough space. The exact area in the galaxy you are is the Gilead system, which is part of the Dark Imperium saga in which the Noctis Aeterna has ripped across the known space and is sequestering this area of space. Basically, in layman's terms, this area of the galaxy is being engulfed by warp storms or terrible hurricanes of raw chaos. Reality itself is like a little blip on a roiling sea of chaos, and it spills into our world, bringing with it demonic incursions, madness, and all kinds of horrible things. And one of the most debilitating parts of this is that it blocks navigators or special mutants that have a third eye that allows them to see that Astronomicon that we heard about in the intro. It is a giant beacon, in essence, a giant galactic compass that helps you to navigate through pure chaos. This area of the galaxy has been completely cut off from the source of law and governance, at least from Holy Terra, for 3 solar years. which doesn't sound like a lot, but we know how bad a hurricane can be. But imagine just countless light years of just hurricanes that happen to be full of demons and terrible things, and it is basically causing this whole sector to fall apart.
And everybody's stuck there. That the other thing is, it doesn't just make it hard to tell where you are when you're doing FTL travel. It makes FTL travel essentially impossible unless you really want to risk like a very, very high probability of never coming back. So we probably haven't gotten any mail in 3 years, haven't sent any mail, like supplies aren't getting in and out.
I'm waiting on so many Kickstarter rewards right now, y'all.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad situation.
I mean,
I'm down to drinking Shasta Tiki Punch, for God's sake.
Oh, in practical upshot, though, the disconnection notices aren't going to make it, so it's not like they're going to shut off our internet.
True.
Well, keep in mind that there's
notices?
Well,
oh, notices. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Even telepathic communication, their version of space email can't really work because of chaos.
I'm absolutely going to call, what are they? It's telepathy, but they call them astropaths. I'm going to call astropathic relay space email from now on. That's great.
So this sector is really lacking a lot of governance. In fact, there's kind of a de facto source of galactic law, and it's being provided by a rogue trader. So the de facto acting Lord High Commander, in essence, right now, is a wily patriarch of the Veronius line. But that is all to kind of give without being one of the countless fanboys that lord dumps too much all at once for someone that may be fully uninitiated into the said lore. We want to make sure that this is still accessible. We're not going to go too deep into the rabbit hole, although most of us certainly are constantly
I feel like that was
puns.
a direct criticism of me, and I did not care for it, sir.
No. Are you kidding? Like,
if you don't mind me interjecting, here's the nitty gritty. If we say something and you're like, that sounded cool, but it's gone into the ether, there's a website called WH40K Lexicanum. And you can essentially search any term we say, and you can read an entire library about that topic. So, or you can message me or Charles on X, and we will have.
Yeah,
you could message me. I mean,
you can message. You can message the three of us, and we will happily talk to you for hours at a time about 40K.
Yeah. You can message me. I won't reply.
my only advice for the uninitiated would be to stay away from YouTube videos on the subject. Those guys tend to be a bunch of dicks.
Message Paschke, and he will send you pictures of bread.
Yeah.
Not even bread that I made. Like, I'm just going to go to the grocery store, get a package of Wonder Bread, open it in the store, take a photo, send that to you. I'm not buying it. Yeah.
Where's the walk off? We need it.
Oh, that's very funny.
So this is just to say that we're going to try to make sure that this is accessible, because lore should never be a prohibiting factor from playing a game. If a game is mechanically sound, that anyone can come into it. In fact, 3 of our players throughout this adventure have varying levels of little to almost no exposure to 40K before. So just letting you know that if you are a casual viewer and watcher and not that well versed, you can still have a good time with the system. So we want to kind of showcase that you can learn on the fly. And of course, we are happy to give you all of our favorite book recommendations as little posts in our social media, kind of tell you what got you into this. But this is to basically laying the groundwork for saying that this area is going through a lot of upheaval, a lot of rebellion, a lot of rogue witchers and psychers and demons and other types of things, threats to humanity. And there is a need for agents, people who are still working for the force of rule and law, or
for the Imperium, yeah.
For the Imperium. So the book allows you to play as even people who are working against the Imperium, but we're going to be playing as the quote unquote good guys. Don't come at me, because if you know, you know. But hold your tongues.
Yeah.
So, like any good adventure, the best way to get to know the setting and the mechanics of the game is to just start in media res. And that's what we're going to do. We're even going to buck our going straight into character introductions, and we're going to go straight into our opening scene. That is, if our cast is ready.
Sure.
All right. So you awaken out of a slumber. There's a weird taste on the back of your tongues. It's heavy and it's mechanical, or it's very metallic. It's that kind of feeling that you get when you've had a lot of anesthesia or too much drugs after a long bender. Your senses come back to you very slowly. That first thing coming to your senses is that weird acrid taste in your mouth, then followed by a very strange smell. It is something very feral. It is the smell of like an abattoir or just lots of raw meat. The next thing you realize is there is a lot of weight on you. Like you are covered in something, or it's strange. Why don't all of you make the first roll of the day and roll awareness? So for people who aren't familiar, this is a D6 dice pool game where your stat, or excuse me, your attribute and your skill are added together to make a pool of D6s that you roll to get points for your success, or icons. The difficulty of this test is 3. Let me know who
Ian,
passes.
I'm gonna let you go ahead and know that I got 0 icons on that roll.
Okay.
I did not botch my wrath dice though.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So first time rolling in this system ever. My awareness, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell anyone or not. So everyone else, but Ian, take off your headphones. My awareness is 2. So I'm rolling 2 dice, one of which is the funny one.
That's correct.
Cool. And I got a 6 on the funny one.
Okay, great. So the funny one is part of the name of the system. We are playing Wrath and Glory, and in the die pool, one of the dice are going to be different. You're going to designate by color, size, whatever, and it is the way of handling how you get crit successes and failures when you have a die pool mechanic. So our intrepid hero, we'll figure out who or what he is in a minute, rolled a 6 on the wrath die, which is really good. Means that it's basically going to be an automatic, not an automatic success, but a very good success if he were to pass it. There's also a rule thing that we'll talk about as we go along where you can also forego getting a really good roll on that and turn it into a future roll in a process called shifting. It's a way of moving mechanics around for if you have so much in a die pool, you're not wasting your overage in essence. So what I heard is that you have, you said you have a 6 on your wrath die, and what was the other die?
A 3.
A 3. So a 3 doesn't count for anything. In order to get a success point or an icon, it has to be a 4 or 5, or a 6 is a exalted icon, or basically 2 success points. So in essence, you have 2 success points, and that is on a wrath die. So you're not able to pass this test per se, but you get, I will let you shift that 6 and get a point of wrath that you can use as a die in the future. And instead of a full success here, I'm going to let you have one bit of information in the scene. Your senses are still escaping you, but what's one little bit of sensory information you want to learn about this scene?
Oh man. We already covered that we taste fleshy metal bits. Color of the walls? I don't know.
That's interesting. You open your eyes, and it is black. And it also feels like there's something very close to your face. There is no light here.
Everything's black, even the lights.
I had one icon and I didn't crit or miss on the wrath die. So I'm guessing I don't know shit.
No, you just feel like you're coming out of a stupor. That
Yeah,
you
okay.
you think
That
you've
sounds
been
about
drugged.
right. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Anybody else succeed or get a crit failure?
I got a 6 and 2 5s, and on the wrath die I got a 2. So
Okay, well that means that you have 4 points total success. In fact, you are able to get your senses of faculties just immediately. Your training helps you to hone your mind. You are able to steal your consciousness. Even as you feel like you're coming out of this drug, you start saying your prayers, your litanies of hatred and things to get your blood pumping, and you come to be fully alert. You realize that you are feeling disjointed because you're buried in a heap of corpses.
oh,
That is why everything smells bad. That's why you feel all this weight on you. You're in the middle of a pile of corpses.
I would like to not be in a pile of corpses anymore if I could, please.
That is a great thing. First thing I need you to do is I want you to roll me a second roll because you realize you're buried in corpses and you don't want to be in the middle of a heap of corpses. I'm going to have you roll a fear test. So what you're going to do is on your traits table, you're going to look at your resolve, and that's the number of dice you're going to roll.
Okay, and one of them has to be the wrath die, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So my resolve is 2.
And you need
A 2
one.
and a 3. No successes.
So you come into terrible awareness of where you are, and you begin to hyperventilate. How does your fear begin to manifest when you realize you are drowning in a sea of corpses?
Well, aside from the fact that I'm just drowning in a sea of corpses and I'm never going to see the light of blasters.
God Emperor's holy light again.
Exactly. I start
priest coaches.
I start freaking out, and I'm gonna try to do anything I can to, whether it's up, down, left, or right, just try to move through
up, down,
wherever.
left, right.
Yeah.
So you're able to scrabble out of this heap of corpses, just violently pulling yourself up. You feel your fingers sink into things. You're not sure if you're parting flesh or sticking into certain things, but it is a grisly climb to the top. You feel that you aren't alone, that there's other things stirring in this pile of corpses. In the distance, you can see there is a slight line of light across this space that you are in. So the rest of you are floundering in corpses and maybe just blissfully unaware of this situation. But in a few seconds later, there's this violent upheaval. You feel the pit of your stomach give way. That line of light that you saw opens into a big yawning wall of bright light, and you are unceremoniously jumped into, well, the sea is like outside. The first thing you notice is that it's raining. You hear the sounds of mechanical movement, and as your eyes adjust from being in pure darkness to light, you realize that there is a cargo transporter ship pulling away, and you find yourself in the middle of a quad surrounded by tall cathedral-like buildings in the middle of a rainstorm in a giant heap of corpses. So the rest of you are basically now unburied, but I'll need the rest of all of you real quickly before we transition. All of you, except for Kevin's character, roll me one of those resolve checks. You need to have one success, one icon.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
That's 2 for you, Charles B.
Thank you.
So my resolve is a 1, so I'm just rolling 1 die.
That's correct.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I have 2 icons on that, or 1 exalted icon rather, and I don't have anything going on with the wrath die.
Okay, great. Then you hold your resolve and you swallow down your fear.
By the grace of the God Emperor, that's what I do.
So I don't have a resolve stat, but I also don't need to breathe. Does that do anything for me?
Well, I think it may just be something that wasn't copied and pasted from that Yeah, I see it. Oh, you're right. You have 0 resolve. That is not.
That's probably a Mechanicus thing.
Yeah, it's going to say you probably are. It's probably that brain implant that you.
Yeah, they have.
So I probably auto pass is my guess.
We'll have to check. That is anomalous because that's based off of your will. You've got a willpower of 1. Well, interesting. We'll have to look into that later because maybe if we made that by hand, it would show that you have at least 1 point. But
then again, John, you're not a skit. You're not a skitarist. Skitari? Yeah. So it's not like you have all of your.
No, but I have the flesh is weak.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And yeah.
As a trait or ability or whatever. That's right. Okay.
Interesting. Then we will just say that you pass for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing that you notice is that you are in this large open quad surrounded by these very mournful, tall, black, or very sooty cathedrals. You hear the sounds in the distance of hymn casters droning on and on, the sounds of heavy machinery rhythmically pumping, and you hear the engines of some type of industry happening here. But more importantly, you see that rising from this heap of corpses are other just as discombobulated people.
I'm going to rise up on mechanical spider legs and kind of skitter over to the next person in the pile and use my giant servo arm to begin pulling corpses off of them and help them out.
That's a nice thing to do. That's pro-social.
I'm a very kind man thing. I'm a very kind, vaguely man-shaped collection of circuits and metal.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, is Kevin wearing any insignia that's visible?
That is up for him to decide. But as you're looking at each other, the first thing you notice is that all of you are wearing basically very simple clothing. None of you have your equipment that somehow you feel like you should have had. In fact, as you are getting your senses back with the cold rain pouring down you, you begin to have these hazy recollections that come back into you of toasting with a nice glass of anisec in a nice luxury suite somewhere. There was a cheerful and hospitable woman with long gray white hair and a shit ton of augment. You remember the augmentics. In fact, her whole torso down was basically a tank, mechadendrites, and you start to recognize each other as you were toasting, agreeing to a contract to come here for some reason.
Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if now did you say it was a transport or a cargo hauler that was taking off?
It was a cargo holder.
So
if in
they've-
fact, as it's pulling away, do you want to make an awareness check to see if you can make out what's inscribed in the hull?
I would very much. And I think that's a 3d6 check. Yes, because we did that one pile of corpse this time. All right, so hang on one second. I have 2 icons, and my wrath die didn't do anything interesting.
Okay. Then you're able to read on the side of the ship, it says Memento Mori. And as you watch the ship fly off, you see there is a massive planet across the horizon, and you realize that you must be on its moon.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, I'm putting it together. I bet this is like a cemetery moon or something, and we were intended to die and didn't. So I don't know. That's an interesting starting scenario.
Are you saying this stuff like? Are you postulating this stuff aloud?
No, I'm just spitballing. Okay. For the time being, since I do recognize you guys from the toasting and so forth. I wander over to both of you, kind of like rubbing my head, a little bit shamefaced, and kind of trying to regroup with the only other people I recognize.
A fan of blade-like mandibles spreads open from my jaw, and revealing a Vox speaker embedded where my mouth should be. I believe we have passed as corpses to infiltrate this place. I am searching my memory banks for why we would do such a biological thing.
I'm pretty sure we decided to do this contract, got roofied, and got dumped off here.
Were we supposed to be dead? Or so were we like inadequately poisoned? Because that's different than, and this I am saying out loud in gothic slangy 40k talk. I don't want to talk in 40k talk necessarily, but I like being roofied is an entirely different thing than being like not quite poisoned to death, but just poisoned mostly to death. That's
I
Wednesdays, am I
believe-
right?
John,
I believe that.
Can you analyze your blood? Do you have that ability?
I don't actually have blood, so that would be hard for me to do. I can analyze your blood. Just give me some. Give me some of your blood, baby. I don't actually. I am not a Magos biologist.
Okay,
so
I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
No.
maybe don't give me your
I'm
blood.
I'm not gonna fall for that one. I know you're kind.
Hold me once.
Mechanical heretics. I know you're kind. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, I see like cathedrals in here, like loud hymns. So, or what are they called again? Hymn.
Casters.
I know hymn casters. That's great. I hear hymn casters. I got one of my own. So maybe, I feel right at home. Maybe we should head towards one of those places. I am and I say I'm a member of the Ministorium. I'm a priest of the Holy God Emperor. They'll help us at one of those cathedrals.
Very good. I'm Adeptus Astartes. Ha ha ha.
Ha ha. Yeah.
So as you are, still kind of coming back into everything, like you're beginning to feel more back in your personage. When someone looks at you, what is it that they see? And do you give your name to these people who you feel like you do know and share comradeship with?
I do, yeah. So I am shaved as bald as a cue ball. I have a it looks like in the picture supplied, it looks like an imperial rosette. So I'm going to change that to I think that's actually, that is an inquisitorial rosette. So I'm going to change that to a double eagle tattoo on the side of my big bald head. And although I'm dressed plainly, you can tell by my semi-regal bearing that I'm a real pompous priestly asshole. And I introduced myself as, hang on a second, it is a good name too, by the way, Durath Baraqel. You can just call me Father Baraqel.
So Ian, I know all my equipment is gone, but are you saying I am not in my red robes either?
You feel like you are slightly embarrassing Mars itself, the fact that you're in a stained and pretty plain white robe. In fact, it really doesn't do much to hide the various augmentics under you, because the blackness and chromeness of your various plugs, wires, and diodes really shows underneath this white vestment.
What percent of you
Gotcha.
has been given over to the like holy motive force, John?
So yeah, you see in front of you, wearing the same white robes as you are, right? A almost servitor-esque level of augmentation. He is. There's just not enough of him as human left to really tell, like, oh, he looked like this is alive. There is he has kind of scraggly arms that are inlaid with circuitry and electro tattoos. So he still has human arms, but jutting below the waist, it is a almost arachnid-esque jumble of metal limbs that he's perched on top of, a little bit like a tank.
I always picture y'all as looking a little bit like a lobster, since you're usually trailing some like cables and cords and stuff.
Yeah, no, 100%. Very lobster-esque. A big servo arm, which Kevin, or for those of you unfamiliar, is essentially like a crane that has been bolted onto the back of various tech priests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doc
There
Ock.
is but the face is a chrome skull with mandible, like
Strong
normal
look,
jaw
yeah.
that opens up into like multiple mandibles. And he's
Cool.
he looks around, and for a minute it's kind of like I didn't know tech priests could make wry expressions.
How many eyes do you have? Because it's usually more than two.
I have the skull has two eye sockets. There is a beat up Rolex in one of the eye sockets, and like 3 or 4 of those green Auspex lenses built into the skull at various other places.
A beat up Rolex is like that's a hell of a relic to have. That's like pre Dark Age of technology.
Okay, let me rephrase, Charles.
Okay.
A beat up space Rolex.
Okay. Okay. A space Rolex.
Chronometer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Did you
Cool.
Did this unit give its identification moniker?
Is it Flav A Flav?
Pardon, wry embarrassment. I am Magos Extaas Astraphin. Greetings. You are pleased to meet me. Wry grin.
I like him.
I like how you have a little bit of Elcor in you as well.
Yeah.
The other two figures that have not made their introduction, do either of them feel compelled to introduce themselves to this group of increasingly familiar individuals?
Yeah, I will. I mean, I'm still, kind of getting the fuzz out of my head from the whole thing, and kind of looking around for any of my stuff or any stuff in particular, especially, the symbol of authority that I have. But what you see is a kind of a, all right, the way I see it, it's very Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi look, just like the scruffy beard, the nice hair. But I just want to be handsome once, is what I'm saying. But he also has oh, keep going. But he has he also has the augmentic eye, so it's kind of like a clouded eye as well. But I'm one of the ones that don't know very much about this, so I'm just going to be pulling a lot of this out of my ass.
That totally tracks. Like, one augmetic eye is absolutely something that, and I say augmetic instead of augmentic because I'm used to the British pronunciation from all the books on tape, and you won't be able to break me of it because I've listened to so many hours. But yeah, that's absolutely like the kind of subtle augmetic that an Inquisitor would have, and it might just be like one color or have like a double eagle or something in it or something weird like that.
Yeah. But I'm actually more just kind of looking around, seeing if there's any of my stuff, because I'm terribly sorry, guys. My name is Corvin Akalle. I'm playing the Inquisitorial Acolyte, and my Inquisitor guide, the one I'm the ward to.
It's all a bit hazy, and maybe they'll come back to you with time.
Yeah. For some reason, the name Gary keeps popping in my head.
I'm like, for inside joke reasons, for me, you couldn't have picked a better name.
Yeah,
but I'm like, Gary's gonna be pissed. Where is this damn symbol of authority? Where am I? I need something.
And there is one more amongst you that has a pretty gnarly scar and a far-off stare.
Yeah. So I get to make up the scar and how I got it.
Yeah.
So as we all know, the yo-yo was once used as a weapon for combat. Whether or not it was or wasn't, I don't care. And
I have no idea. It's just
in this world now, it totally was. And I lacerated my own face trying to teach myself how to wield a bladed yo-yo. It didn't go well, and I quickly gave it up. I don't like to talk about this. You guys in game don't know that's how it happened, but that in reality is how, like, from like here over is where he was trying to like send it out and catch it, and he missed and cut his face up with a yo-yo. I mean, it had blades that came out when you launched it, so like when you catch it, it's just a regular like yo-yo. But anyways, this doesn't matter. He can't wield the yo-yo. It's not a weapon he has. This is
that's why I stick to Beyblade.
Are you sure it wasn't the thing from Krull? What was that?
No,
thing
it wasn't
called
the
in
Guyver.
Krull? The Guyver. Thank you. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you. Yeah. Great,
but yeah,
great movie.
I really, yeah. He's there. He's just like it's. I'm here. I'm. Oh, geez, Rick. I don't even know what's going on. Who the fuck's Rick? No, I don't know. We're not gonna go that way, are we?
What? No. What's your name, Trooper?
My name's Yank. Yannick.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Timu Yarick.
Amun. AUM.
Hey, 40K fans are losing their minds laughing right now. It's great. Everyone else thinks I'm an asshole.
You are what you eat.
Oh, I'm everything.
That's not true.
Fair.
You're not a
Fair.
shellfish.
I'm not a shellfish or
Not a
a
pig.
pig.
Yep. That's why I hang out with John, not a pig.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What faction are you, Yannick?
Oh, man, faction Astra military.
Oh yeah, so it's totally appropriate that you're kind of like dazed and confused. You're an Imperial trooper, or they used to be
I
called
thought you
Imperial
knew that because
Guard.
you called him Trooper.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, they used to be called Imperial Guard. Now it's Astra Militarum, and they're like the human, like the cannon fodder of the Imperium. Like they die by the million per battle. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad you're alive and here with us.
Yeah, I got a really good feeling about you guys. This is gonna go great for me. Why is my shirt red? Seriously.
Yes.
I will.
They are the red
I will-
shirts for 40k, 100%.
Desperate desperation. I will trade you shirts.
I don't think your shirt will fit me, guy. Plus, there's a bunch of oil coming off of it, and I don't
It
think
is sacred oil. You will enjoy it. It
It
will make
looks
you
like
holier.
1030 weight, from what I can tell.
I don't think I've ever heard
So
1030 weight referenced in 40k, and I'm surprised I haven't. Like,
Yeah, that's actually it's a very good point.
Yeah.
So I know that Corvin, you were saying that you were trying to find your gear, your symbol of authority. So you're like patting down your robe, and you feel something stitched into the bottom of your robes that you're wearing. It feels like a thin square, like a tablet of some kind, and then a rod, and it's sewed into like a fake pouch in your robe.
Okay. Well, being as I'm a modest man, I will turn around and I will pull said things out of my robe.
Okay. The first thing you pull out is that rod. And
I
you
pulled
identify
my rod out of my robe.
modestly.
I pull my rod out of my robe. It's the only thing. Sorry.
Then you crank it.
It is a stalker flare. You know that these are used to hail and a vessel that's usually in low orbit or even moderate orbit. It sends a constant signal ping when it's activated for extraction. The other thing that you notice is that the other thing is a tablet. It's a data slate. It looks very much like a ancient iPad.
Okay.
When you start to fumble with it, it immediately bursts to light, and green text begins to spill across its face. In our shared drive, there's a copy of Player Aid, but since we usually don't project things onto our screen for theater of the mind purposes, I will, forgive me, read what the data slate player handout is. And you see it as soon as this text pour across, a timer begins in a corner for 10 minutes. Esteemed subjects of the Emperor, this message will be wiped from status slate in 10 Terran standard minutes, so I will not waste time thanking you for your undertaking this crucial service for the Emperor and his Holy Inquisition. The need for secrecy in this operation cannot be understated. Under my authority as an interrogator of the Hoi Ordos of the Inquisition, I issue this directive. Find the Xenos artifact known as the Revelator from the Guffredus family necropolis and bring it to me. Little is known of the Revelator beyond its appearance, its vast rumored power, or it acted. Its form is an unusual metallic bottle inlaid with undeciphered runes. Its use is a mystery that I plan to solve. We believe that the Revelator is in the tomb complex of the once venerable Guardsman family. The coat of arms consisted of a shield emblazoned with the Imperial Aquila, flanked by 2 lions rampart. The credo was, "His truth surrounds us." The Galfridus Mausoleum is reportedly near the city of Barasir on the cemetery moon of Daedalon. We delivered you to the city, but have no further data. The Revelator must be found quickly to keep it from the clutches of the enemy. Records at the Librarium Mortem of Barasir may aid you in finding the necropolis. We have limited intel on a recent local named Diomedes that also may be able to guide you, though I recommend avoiding the lowborn slingers of this inert rock. Secrecy is paramount to this operation. Your loose or non-existent ties to the Holy Orders of the Inquisition were amongst many reasons you were chosen to carry out this most imperative of missions. Light the stalker flare attached to this data slate in an inconspicuous area when you've acquired the Revelator so that my ship may collect you. You may remember little of our agreement. Our Medicae expert administered a relaxant to each of you that allowed you to pass for cadavers, a necessity to transport you to this cemetery moon covertly. The only side effect to the treatment is a slight loss of memory, but we must all make sacrifices in his name. Your equipment has been concealed in a false cadaver with an electu of the Aquila. I recommend you start searching and find it before the corpse tenders arrive. Rest assured that the Inquisition will recompense you adequately for the successful completion of this mission as we arranged. May the Emperor watch over you.
Extaas immediately turns towards the priest. You have an electu of the Aquila. Are you?
It's not an electu.
Is my equipment in your body cavity?
No, it is not.
Does anyone want to?
I am not a corpse.
Does anyone want to go over how you get a false cadaver? Because I really feel like that's just a way of they shoved our stuff inside of a dead guy. I really feel like they're not wanting to talk about this, or they just killed someone to hide our stuff.
Friend trooper.
Very, very real cadaver. Yeah.
Reassurance. It is absolutely a dead body that gave its life for the Emperor.
Reassurance. Yeah.
Okay, so they did just kill a guy.
All right, let's all split up.
I didn't know him.
Everybody take a quadrant and start kicking corpses and looking for electus. And mine's not an electu; it's a regular old tattoo.
Ian, can I use my augment, my Omnispecs augment? There we go. To search for, I don't know, let's say, active weapons in the room?
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, I'm not the DM, but yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just going off of lore. Like, that's absolutely something a Techpriest would be able to do.
Absolutely. So I will, for you will be able to get a 2 bonus dice on your roll.
Okay, and that'll be, let's see, is that awareness then, or
awareness or investigation for anyone who wants to dig through this pile of corpses? At the bottom of the data slate, it did say that the message was from interrogator Prodita Mendax. She must be the person that you remember hazily, with the white gray hair, tank lower body, and kindly blue eyes.
I got 5 icons, actually.
Okay. You are able to find it instantly, and it's really of no surprise because it's not just a normal body, but it's an Ogren.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
A large abhuman that is very ogre-like for the uninitiated, and you are able to find a false door within it.
By false door, do you mean a carved bit of stomach?
Why? Potato.
That's fair. Hey, asked and answered.
I'm just glad to have I'm glad to have my vestments back. And my chainsword even more so, although I won't admit it. And my begin force shield. Yeah.
I scuttle over to the Ogren corpse and begin just like with like both arms while the servant arm holds it up. So I'm just like pulling everything out for everyone.
Each of you find all of the equipment that is on your character sheet, so you're able to equip yourself quickly. The rain has just been constant, and the Ogren's opened form is already beginning to fill with water. In the distance, you begin to hear the sound of prayers, not like the distant hymn casters, but it is the sound of active chanting that is beginning to come in your direction. You see that around this square is a covered, like a cloistered walkway. To the north of you is a towering cathedral that's taller than the other buildings nearby, where more of the chanting is coming out from. To the east from here is the sound of metalworks and the sound of rhythmic, like almost sounds a little bit like a small forge. Something is industrial is occurring there. To the south of here, you see that there is a more stout, more buttressed cathedral, as if it is much more wide than it is tall, but it is also just drenched in shadow from its various battlements that overhang it.
That would be an Inquisition headquarters.
And then there is a pathway on your west that leads deeper into this kind of sprawling mortuary complex.
Well, we are looking for a tomb, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these, like, just going off of my knowledge of 40K, like, these tomb complexes and especially cemetery moons or whatever, like, they're big, and there are a lot of tombs and crypts and so forth on them. And even if we find like a family crypt, it won't necessarily get us where we need to go. So I would recommend that we ask for help from somebody in locating this specific crypt we're looking for before we just set out deeper into the funerary complex. That would be my advice. Or I could just pray to the Holy God Emperor and he could guide us to it.
I'll say, do you have a tarot deck?
Not in my possessions. No, I'm guided by visions, so I could have a vision real quick. Usually, when I press on this soft spot on my head, they happen. So I could press on the soft spot and see if I can see. I don't see divination as an actual skill, so I think I would just be making shit up, which is awesome. Pretend I didn't say that.
The line between prophet and epileptic is very thin.
Yeah. According to some of us, possibly non-existent. So I don't see divination, but I do see psychic mastery, and I'm wondering if I can pray to the Holy God Emperor on Terra for a vision real quick. That prayer should be a skill, right?
That if it is something that your character would be able to do without rolling, then you would be able to do. So a prayer is not something necessarily that you would need to roll for. Now,
Okay.
if you were doing like your talent, fiery invective, where you are apostolizing, you're preaching the word of the Imperial Krieg, you're able to do that. But that is kind of a rallying thing that you do. That's your healing buff that you can do for your party. It's your other prayer-like function. You have the flagellant.
Yeah, I was about to say, scratch this idea since I didn't flog myself and pray for 20 minutes this morning. Yeah,
You were kind of busy.
Yeah, I was busy sleeping one off. But I was doing it for the Holy God Emperor, so it's all good. I'm gonna see how many times I can say that tonight. It's really fun to say. I'm such a chaos stan in real life that playing a Ministorium guy is a lot of fun. All right. So I think that all of us but Corporal Morty have like factions that we can cash in our connections at. Because that industrial pounding is definitely Mechanicum related, if I know anything about them.
if I could make one quick clarifying interjection for
You may.
on behalf of Mr. Paschke, if you do not object, for context for people who may be more familiar with various Garrus or origins of various factions within the Astra Militarum, you're actually from a very storied, a very historic.
Oh shit! I
guess,
bet I know who they are.
Right next to the Cadian Shock Troopers, you are a proud member of the Deathcorps of Krieg.
Holy shit! I hoped it would be the Krieg. Oh man, somebody is definitely gonna die by the end of this game.
I
awesome.
tried to make some good pre-gens for all of you.
Yeah.
I will have you know.
Dude, Paschke,
hold on.
you guys are the most
Paschke, do you know-
hardcore troops in the history of the Imperium. Like
Yeah. Paschke,
human,
do you know
human troops.
Hold on. Do you know anything about the Deathcorp of Krieg, Paschke?
There are some links at the bottom of your character sheet for future reading to give you a little bit more illustrious
I have
history.
caught 2 Dune references and 1 Hitchhiker's Guide reference during our explanation of this game.
Let me just say it like this: the Deathcorp of Krieg are fanatically loyal and hardcore. Their entire thing is like, if I didn't die in the suicide mission, then this is bullshit.
Yeah.
They're
not
to have beaten Chaos Marines to death with a shovel.
Yeah. They're not suicidal, but their mission is to die like in combat for like their whole planet is atoning for a grievous sin against the Imperium. And so they're nothing but like a soldier factory that turns out like crazed not suicide troops, but like as close to robots as like human robots is, like not emotionless, but definitely like very well trained. They make the Cadians look like pikers, in my opinion. But the
other thing
awesome.
that's worth noting, since you have been recently reacquainted with all of your equipment and gear, is that most people are very familiar with the Deathcorp of Krieg because they are constantly have their face covered with a rebreather, or basically something that looks very similar to a World War I trench warfare chemical gas mask.
Yeah.
So you are also a very intimidating figure when you're in your full panoply. There is also a nice little picture of your character at the bottom.
No more Corporal Morty.
that.
I'm legitimately scared of you, actually. So most of the Astra Militarum are just like rounded up at gunpoint usually, and like shoved onto ships and sent off to die. The Krieg are fucking volunteers, is how crazy they are. Like their planet, their sole purpose is like, I want to be in the military. I'm going to go serve in the Astra Militarum and get blown to bits.
Again,
it's
beat
rad.
a Chaos Marine to death with a baseball bat, essentially.
Yeah.
Like they are so cool.
And
Very cool.
as the other aside, to contextualize this mechanically, because everything that is lore-based, it's best when it also has mechanics. The Deathcorp of Krieg, their talent that comes with them is the Lookout Sir, which also sounds very World War I, but you basically can, once per combat encounter, make an intercept attack, basically intercept an attack on an ally, take their damage for them, but you force the enemy to re-roll the attack and attack you, and you get a bonus to your resiliency to soak the attack. So you are inherently even hardwired to be a badass of like, oh, no big deal. I'm just going to take a grievous wound that's probably going to kill me, but it's for the Emperor. So fun things. But that's why this in media res begetting is a great way to start, because you're kind of coming back into things after being in this chemical haze of just lightly medicated to resemble a corpse with just a little bit of memory loss.
And the only thing I want to say, because I know we're trying to like actually play, I just want to tell everyone that the reason why Charles and I love this thing so much is that everything is dialed up to an 11. And literally with the Spinal Tap reference, because it's all completely ridiculous and over the top in that Spinal Tap way.
Yeah. and awesome.
I would like just make one small interjection and say, you keep saying it's Charles and John. Keep in mind, I've read over 100 books and I have a huge collection. You keep forgetting that I have.
No. You're absolutely right. It's because you don't. Charles and John don't give you enough room to get a word in edgewise while we stroke each other's bodies. But you're definitely one of us, and I apologize.
So I'm playing Lieutenant Dan, is what I'm hearing.
Ice cream.
More like I'm trying to think of a character who's the equivalent, and I really can't, because usually you don't get one Deathcorp Krieg guy.
Universal Soldier.
Or what was the bonus character from the dumbest Ant-Man movie they've made so far? His name was Gary too. That character, MODOK. No, never mind.
So the sound of chanting is coming closer, and it's coming out of that building to the north. You can see in the distance there is a procession of, from here, at least 6 people wearing robes that are chanting and coming in the direction of the corpse heap.
Well, we should probably beat feet. Where do you guys Okay, let me break down my logic real quick. If I'm not mistaken, we're undercover, so we probably shouldn't contact the Inquisition directly. Of all of us, I think the person who's most obviously who/what they are, unless somebody knows the Deathcorp of Krieg, which they don't usually unless they're in the military. Probably. I think that we should probably act like we're with you, John's guy, who I still want to call Flav. That industrial pounding has got to be a mechanicum facility, and maybe you can leverage your access with them to get us some information. All you've got to do is sneak a mechadendrite in there, right? And we can get some data on maybe a map of the cemeteries and tombs on the moon.
Yes, I am a Magos. Well, okay. Let me rephrase. Ian, this is a good question for you. So part of the reason why tiers are broken up the way they are is because certain tiers have more influence and prestige than others. I'm playing a Techpriest, but I've built a Tech Adept because Techpriests are tier 3 and I'm actually only tier 2, right? So, playing wise, I'm playing a Techpriest, but Ian, can I pass myself off as a Magos? Because technically that is the tier 3.
Well, you're picking and choosing a little bit, and so you're almost kind of in a way trying to get a benefit from a higher tier that you wouldn't be able to. That's
exactly
through a talent. And
John,
keep in mind,
your new Spherics would be all fucked up for one thing, unless you were forging them.
You could. I mean, anyone that's not in the priesthood of Mars, you could probably deceive. But anyone from the priesthood of Heart, if you pulled that once, you would instantly be called out and you would probably be excommunicated. I mean, that is a egregious break in protocol, and that's a slight against the Omnissa himself. But is also just helpful context for Kevin, your character, your agents. Some will have a dedicated second persona, and you can even get one as a talent later if you like to have that. You are able to also act very covertly, even though that you could be in this role of being a big, larger-than-life agent. A lot of your role is very much discretion. So even as you are beginning to still learn a little bit of lore in this world, acting as if you're someone completely different is well within what is appropriate and almost expected for your role. So even though you are an agent of the Inquisition, you could totally just say, I'm a fishmonger, and I'm here to visit my dead wife's great aunt, and like totally fake it and act like you don't know anything.
Yep.
And that works because you're in the know, even if you don't know everything. So feel free to play your character however you want, regardless of the lore, because you are meant to be a sleeper agent.
Okay. Gotcha.
So don't feel like you have to know what you're doing per se, what's appropriate. If someone's going to call you out, this is still a game, even though some of us know lore.
This might help a little bit. Like the Inquisition are sort of like the secret police of 40K. So one of the reasons they're so hated and feared is because they're perceived as being always listening, because they can look like or have, contacts like with anyone, anywhere, etc. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'll say is I am a tech priest, but I can't pull rank. So what I could probably do though is act as actually, dude, this is easy. I'm a Zenerite. Whether even though the priesthood at large doesn't trust my faction, it wouldn't be completely bizarre for me to be like, oh, my Magos back home has requested I research this that is supposed to be found on this planet. This
That's
is my
true.
retinue. I could probably pull that off without blowing my cover or making it look like I am being a bad boy.
Yeah, you're not like a Forge World Magos or something. They send agents abroad. The Xenites,
So let's do that.
The children of Xenu.
Yeah, that sounds doable and without endangering our favorite party member, me.
Are we all agreed that we head towards that pounding then?
No, I'm the favorite party member.
That's fair. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm not gonna fuck with them.
I'm not arguing with the fucking Death Krieg. Fuck off with that noise. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We will head towards the sound of the forge.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
So you dip out of this courtyard, and as you slip out, you see this procession of robed individuals, and they make a beeline to where those corpses are, and they begin to hoist them on their shoulders and make a procession back into the large cathedral to the north. As they are leaving, and there's someone in the back that's wearing a hymncaster that is moving with every step, like it's just slapped onto their back, another procession of people is going for that corpse pile, and you see over time the corpse pile is being dragged into the large building. In the direction you're heading, you hear that sound, and you realize at first that this building that you're heading to isn't as large as it may have sounded, but you realize that the sounds that are coming from it are just bouncing off all of these large buildings around it. As you make your way through this kind of cloistered section of a cathedral complex, you exit it and you see a small factory shrine. There are lines of busy, faithful servants going in and out. You see there are, looks like adepts and a couple of people with some type of mechanical augmentations. But you do hear the sounds of pounding of machines, and it sounds like something maybe is being fabricated inside.
Can I? Let me look at here. Yep. Okay. Binary chatter. I have something. Is there any indication on the outside of the building as to what they could be fabricating inside?
The outside of this building is adorned with lots of skulls that have some type of metallic overlay on them, some type of golden-esque material, even though it's heavily tarnished with the constant downpour of rain. I have to memorize our characters' names since we're all using them differently. Corvin or Yannick, are there any things that you would like to do with your kind of soldier-like instincts, both of you being different types of soldiers for the Imperium? You see people milling in and out of this building where all the mechanical sounds you're hearing, but you see other areas that might be of interest, such as that large, squat, wide building that's to the south. It kind of hulks across the immediate line of sight. And you also still see those corpses being dragged in a building to the north. But beyond that, you see all kinds of strange buildings that look like they are adorned in bones of various kinds. There are mourners that are wailing. There are people that are casting prayers at the top of their lungs. You see processions of people that are going from here to there, sometimes carrying things that look like caskets or urns.
You guys think it would help us fit in if I fired up the prayer hailer? And without even waiting for an answer, I just fire it up. So, and
Our God is an awesome God.
Oh, I know this song, Joy. Our God is an awesome cog.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
You did. Yeah. No, it's just a standard, like, glory to the God Emperor type number.
Jesus. Space Jesus, no.
No, the Emperor's just... Jesus is one of the historical figures he definitely wasn't in those books.
I mean, I would stick out like a sore thumb. I'm trying to think if there's any of those environments that would make sense for someone in my getup to be going to, because anyone that I know that would have died in service to the Emperor did a good thing. So we're not mourning, right?
Right.
No. High-fiving their corpse, maybe.
So I don't think there would be anyone like me out there. I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Well, no, you're
Doesn't
pretending to
matter.
be part of my retinue as a tech priest.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
there are all kinds of reasons that a tech priest would have a gaggle of weirdos with him, especially a traveling tech priest. Bodyguards, etc. Although I don't know that I've never heard of a Krieg mercenary, but I don't know. There's always one of something.
I mean, if it's in the book, it's obvious that occasionally they get pulled into, especially if he was imagine that he was left behind like for medical reasons when the rest of his platoon or company was shipped into another thing, and then the Imperial Nihilists happened. So
Yeah. Deep shame
that's my
issues,
guess.
but I can see it happening. Yeah.
Anywho, it totally makes sense for you to be part of my retinue, so no worries.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to approach the front doors of this factorum and kind of lean up to the intercom and let out a burst of like binary greeting. Maybe tap into the Noorsphere and be like, Junior Magos Extaas requesting entry.
You're on mute.
Go ahead and make me an influence roll.
I can use my intellect instead of my fellowship if I want to. And my fellowship is a 1, and my intellect is a 3.
So, influence is under your traits table. So
It's a 1
for
of
your
3.
character, all right. So it's going to be 3 for the character generator. It's the rightmost stat in this case. What?
Okay, so I got 4 icons with a crit on the wrath die.
Okay, interesting. Now you can always choose to shift, but in this case, it would be good to let it ride. If
I'm gonna let this one ride, baby.
Okay. So as you are able to kind of blurt back in Binaric, which is the language of the machine people, for those unfamiliar, you kind of have this very quick blurt back and forth of checking of credentials, and you're able to kind of bluff your way just a little bit, just kind of stating what your business is and wanting to investigate this space, kind of get a feel for it, and you are admitted inside. Immediately you see that there are various operations happening here. Even though this is a small factory shrine, you see it's constantly full of people moving bits of pieces from here to there, the sounds of workshops. There is a whole chorus of both binaric and human voices singing dual hymns to both the Omnissiah and the Holy Emperor himself, blessing the construction that is happening. You're able to see all of these things being happening in tandem, and you realize the end product of all this industry are servo skulls. They're human skulls that
I've always
have
wondered
been
where those come from.
fitted with anti-gravitational thrusters and all full of different types of multi-tools or computer bits, but they're basically a personal assistant droid that is a human skull. They could be made to look like angels, cherubs, cherubim, other things, but they are skull robots.
And to anyone who's going to at me, like, I know what servo skulls are. I know where they come from. Most faithful servants, their skulls get turned into forever familiars. I've never seen the factory floor of one before, and that's kind of cool. That's all.
I turn towards our Inquisitorial agent, and look, I have a immovable metal skull as a face, but somehow I convey the essence of a raised eyebrow.
You could probably do it with a computery noise, you know, that sort of thing.
So, are they just like mass producing these servo skulls, or are they like actually activated? Like,
it's interesting that you say mass produced, because you think that all of this would produce like a whole assembly line on lots of skulls, but rebuilding technology in this grimdark future is a very laborious thing. So much of information has been lost that it becomes ritual. You see people that are engaged in the building of these skulls that are really engaging in needless rituals and things that have nothing to do with even installing circuit boards and other things.
You sack of shit.
But so you see that it is a very slow, methodical process to make these. So you would estimate that maybe over a course of a week, they maybe even produce a skull. But everyone is busy doing all of these very important rituals to appease great machines. There are sensors full of incense and all these other things. So you get a feeling from looking at this from the outside, even though this is your first time here, that these things carry a lot of weight. These are not a cheap item, but this is something of great importance, and you can tell everyone takes it very reverently.
I said most faithful servants.
Yes, very hallowed feeling to this place, Corvin. What does this kind of invoke a thought or something you'd like to investigate as you pan your eyes across this place?
Well, you said that there are uses like multi-tools and information and stuff like that. What I'm wondering is if we were to procure one of these, is if we can get some information, if we can find out where possibly the mausoleum for, I had the thing up, there it is, the Gelfredus mausoleum is, so we could possibly find this bottle.
Probably only
Yeah.
if one were being made specifically as like a cemetery guide. They're usually made to purpose, aren't they?
They can be, but you know that there are making these for all kinds of different purposes. So in this game is interesting. Instead of having a currency per se, everything is really rolled into the ability to do acquisitions. So you are never keeping track of how many credits you have, but either through influence or through kind of a series of requisitioning, you're able to purchase things. So you have a wealth score on all of your sheet that shows a little bit of like what your liquid assets are that you can use to bribe, to buy things, or otherwise you rely on your employer or your inquisitorial agent or rogue trader, whoever it is you're under the employ, to get the thing for you if you don't have it. So as you're kind of taking this all in, you do see someone, Corvin, that really strikes your eye as a person of authority. It is another very heavily augmented person, just like your new friend here. It seems to be overlooking all the operations in a deep crimson robe that has a gold cogtooth patterned along the hems. It doesn't really hide all of these strange, abnormal shapes that are attached to the otherwise human frame. And the person seems very much intent on inspecting every step along the way of making a skull. But everyone gives this person a few steps and a lot of deference.
So I really hope this isn't metagaming. It's tough with people who are new to the lore and stuff, but Kevin, does Kevin have his rosette?
Kevin does not have a rosette.
I was going to say
fuck.
only like full Inquisitors.
So,
get a rosette.
excuse me. He does have a symbol of authority. That's what he was looking for at the beginning. So it's not the full rosette because rosettes are color coded.
He has the rod, right?
It's
Or
just
whatever it
it could look like whatever it wants to look like for the sake of mechanics, but it does give a bonus to leadership and intimidation tests for people who recognize what it is.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens often in the setting, like the lore anyway, the books or whatever, like an Inquisitor just has to flash their badge. Basically, it's a very specific type of badge called a rosette. And like people generally do whatever the fuck they want them to do. The Mechanicus is actually one of the few like exceptions to that, because they kind of the Imperium is actually two empires, kind of, the Martian Empire and the Terran Empire, and there's like some jurisdictional slap fighting between the Inquisition and the Mechanicum sometimes, but you might be able to tell them to just like give you a skull and they would.
Well, with all that, I may just walk up to said guy.
Just flash him.
And just kind of pull out the little symbol. It's like, I may need to see one of these.
The figure looks at you, looks at the symbol of authority, and then you hear the sound of mechanical gears whirring. What looks like human eyes kind of retract into the figure's skull, and you are met with lots of thin wires that seem to be twitching as it looks you up and down, and particularly pointing at your symbol of authority. He makes kind of a scoff that sounds very mechanical and also like a very wet, phlegmy cough. Roll for me your choice, Corvin. Either a leadership or a intimidation check to kind of add a little extra emphasis to your...
Ian, that human eyes going away and tendrils coming out is better Mechanicus writing than almost any of the novels that I've read. Kudos.
Thank you. Improv at its best.
Yeah, that was hella creepy and awesome.
I think I might do leadership since that's 5 dice. And then with the symbol of authority, I get a bonus die as well. So that's 6.
That is correct.
And that's so many dice. All right. Oh goodness. That's a 6 on the wrath die and a 6 and a 5, and then the rest are under.
So how many icons is that total?
That is 4 icons, sir.
4 icons, one of which is exalted. Interesting. Then that will...
Plus, he had a 6 on the wrath die.
Right, that's the wrath. That's why it's critical. That's why it's going to be pretty helpful for you. So as you lean in, you can feel there's a little bit of a contest of wills. There's a little bit of ozone that kind of begins to build between the two of you, and you feel there's a little bit of a weird electrical sense in some of your molars. But you're able to stare him down, and you hear that wet, phlegmy cough and binaric chattel kind of turn almost into the sound of like chastisement, as if you recognize this person is seeing your authority. You do, in this contest of wills, get a little sinking feeling of needing to operate under secrecy. You just whipped out your badge of authority, but you can see that this figure is instinctively giving you some deference. The figure introduces himself through voices that I am not able to replicate with my fleshy form.
Yeah.
That gives it a shot.
There's no way I would ever do injustice to our holy, Mars and the priesthood.
In any of the bad books on tape about the Mechanicus, they just sound like Daleks because all the readers are Brits. So it's like negative identity. I'm like, come on, man, you're gonna do a whole book of this?
So the figure introduces himself as Jevik of the cult Mechanicus. You see that he answers all of your questions in very short, clipped, curt speech, as if begrudgingly using human tongue rather than binaric. What is it you are wanting to get from him?
Well, look, I'm not here to.
You said you wanted a skull?
I do want a skull, but I'm Jivik, I'm gonna level with you. I need to check out one of these skulls, for reasons that I mean, when I'm done, I'll bring it back. I mean, I'll take good care of it. I don't necessarily want to get Gary involved.
Being too nice, Kevin.
But
they don't respect nice.
I don't want to get Gary involved, but I just need to take this, and I need to
clarification. We are searching for something for the Ortos back on my world. We are working with this organism's master to accomplish our goals.
With the role that you have gotten, Corvin, he acquiesces, although there is certain binaric chatter that he does admit as he goes and picks, probably the least adorned, recently completed skull. You're able to identify the Extaas as being very common curse words, and of course one an infrequently used archaic curse word, but you get this servo skull that has two green screens for the eye sockets are, and it has a very basic anti-grav plate. This thing, it would be obvious to you, Extaas, seems to be more of a scribe as well as an observer servo skull.
I'm going to kind of as he's muttering, I'm like, yeah, fucking biologicals. What are we gonna do, man? In binary, and then in non-binary, say, thank you so much for our statement. We express gratitude for your assistance, and I space mechanic talk for swear to administer the rites of sanctification and purification to keep the machine spirit of this skull pleased upon
I'd probably say vow. I vow to blah blah, because they're a religious as well as a tech order. So,
but yeah, that's what I do.
So the skull hums to life and it floats next to you, Corvin. It bobs up and down, and you see that its vacant green eyes look oddly similar to your Deathcorp friend and his gas mask that he is constantly wearing. The two look very similar to one another.
Ooh, name it Krieg.
Yeah, we'll come up with a good name for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Javik, thank you for your time. And I'm going to give him a little slap on the side and walk out.
He recoils in abject horror as you have touched him with flesh. In fact, he blurts out a elephantine blurt of electronic squeal, and instinctively you see various acolytes beginning to attend to him, daubing on sacred oils and to buff off the fingerprints you have dared to leave upon his form. As you leave, you hear various rites of purification from various servitor drones that do nothing but emit hymns.
Kevin knows what's up with the Inquisition. You're just doing it your own style. I like it.
And your mother's a level lady too. And I'm just going to walk
out. Maybe next time do not be an asshole to my holy order. Request.
So we have something that might be able to help with the beginning of this quest. Finding this
We might be able to soup it up, though, actually, if we find components. I don't know. Do you have any skills, Flav that are geared toward, actually interfacing with tech and upgrading it, like machining or something?
Yes.
Cool. We can work with that.
So it's something that you can work with, and hopefully this will be the first bit of hopeful information that you can start to dive into to help you find the Acropolis and ultimately find the Revelator and accomplish your goal and get off of this constant rain-soaked graveyard. But we can go into that on our next stream, where we dive into more of the various strange things that are happening in this and the forces of chaos that are ever illuminating from the Great Rift, spilling its miasmic poisons into the world.